Hey everybody, it's Tom Duff of St. Louis Counseling. Check us out at stlouiscounseling.org. And today I'm going to talk about some everyday tips and techniques for mental health. Why? Because we all have mental health. So, the rules of engagement for vaccinations. So, word on the street is that there's vaccinations going on out there. Some people are getting them, some people are not. And of course, that has created some conflict, as we have seen, well, really everywhere. So, what do we do when that conflict exists? How do we handle it? So, number one, if you're not passionate about it, if you are okay with your stance and your side on the vaccinations and everybody around you kind of sides with you, maybe let it rest. Don't get involved. In other words, don't stir the pot. The reality is we're seeing a lot of stirring the pot, a lot of rhetoric that's out there on either side of this concept. But if you're not feeling passionate about it and you're not feeling that you have to change minds, that's okay, right? So be okay with that. Which leads to the next part. For people that have a passion about not understanding the other side. So we have one side that says, I'm listening to the data, I'm listening to the news, and I feel so strongly about this that we need to be vaccinated and that we need to save lives. We have another side that says, don't believe everything you hear, right? Which creates the conflict in that regard. So it comes down to, if you're feeling that passion, what do you do about that? Are you a keyboard-commando, right? So I'm going to get on social media and I'm going to fire off some stuff. I'm going to send some emails, or I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to be kind of passively aggressively posting some messages because I'm trying to get somebody in my life to listen to me, but I don't really want to talk to them about that. I know you guys are out there. I've seen social media now for a few years. I know there's a lot of hidden messages in the generalizing of comments that are out there. So my stance today in this quick tip on mental health, right, is how do you start a conversation? Because instead of doing the keyboard commando and that passive aggressive way of trying to communicate with someone you're trying to get a message to, because those things don't work. They truly don't work. Nobody's going to say, oh, that's about me. So-and-so is writing that and that's about me. It doesn't work. Otherwise, you'd get your message across, right? So my stance on this vaccination debate, so to speak, is start a conversation. So if you feel passionate about this because somebody in your life doesn't see the same side as you, I want you to start a conversation about that, because that's the only way to hear another point of view. It's the only way to maybe get your point of view across. So number one is this: set the stage. All right. And so I think a lot of times we spring things on people when we shouldn't. All right. So you're going to talk about a whole controversial subject, and you're going to do it while driving in your car in between meetings, and you're just going to call somebody out of the blue and say, hey, you know what? I want to talk to you about vaccinations and why you're not getting one. That creates a wall right off the bat. The other person is not prepared because they're already probably feeling a little bit of tension in that sense. So set the stage. Have plenty of time to be able to have that conversation. Maybe even prep the other person. A lot of times that goes a long way. Just to say, hey, can we have a conversation? It's really been on my mind about your viewpoint on vaccinations. Can we find some time to talk? So setting that stage is really important. Differentiate between fact and emotion on how you're dealing with this situation, because there's a lot of emotion behind both sides of this, right? Those emotions, of course, directly impact our mental health. And know where you're coming from when you want to talk about this. Is it purely you're worried about the person's health? Right? Let's say you're on the side of the coin where you're vaccinated and you want someone else to get vaccinated that you care about. Or is it because they just don't agree with you? And that's where it's coming from. So check yourself before you bring that conversation in, and bring in the facts that you want to and the emotions that you want to bring to that. If you really want someone to know that you care about them, make sure you're using that language one way or another. Agree where you can and agree to disagree. I call this common ground. A lot of times you hear the concept of, we're going to agree to disagree on this. But I also believe in conversation that you have to agree where you can. That goes really a long ways with this. And the reason that's important is because more than likely than not, when you have this conversation, and this isn't always just about vaccinations, this is just about bringing an issue to somebody else, right? This can be used in the workplace. This can be used within your relationships, because to me, this is what it's all about when we're on both sides of this coin. It's about relationships. So it's important to know that you're probably not going to 100% change a person's mind. You might be able to bring up some topics where you both can agree on, and that is really, really important, because more often than not, on any issue, there's going to be a lot of agreement points within that issue or that controversial subject. And then you probably do need to agree to disagree on certain points. You leave some things on the table to keep contemplating and keep thinking about, but the reality is this: you're not going to change a person's mind 100%. If you do, congratulations, all right? But there's still going to be some things in there. For people, that are trying to convince others to get the vaccination, you have to be able to have that relationship, and you have to be able to provide the feedback they need so they can make their informed decision. My last point with this is, after you have this conversation or conversations, and I think that's important too to recognize, one conversation does not always mean everything's going to change. Sometimes it's multiple conversations. It's leaving things on the table and coming back to later, right? So after time to reflect and think about it. I think that's how I approach problems anyway. But you need to kind of do some discernment on your own. You need to understand, I've presented everything I can. I've expressed my side of the issue. I've expressed why it's important for me and why I care that I'm trying to convince you to my side, because there's definitely a reason why you're trying to convince a person to come to your side. It's through this relationship that you have with this individual, right? But then you have to come to a point to say, I've done everything I can. Am I willing to continue to live in frustration because this person won't change? Am I continuing to put this stress on myself? Am I continuing to put this negative affect on myself because this person won't change? So you yourself have to come to some grips of acceptance, like, I've done everything I can. But the thing I've learned about being a therapist in this field for so long is I can't change the unwilling in that sense, right? The people that are not willing to change, I can't make them change. I don't have that power over them. That's their choice, right? But what I can do is I can put out everything that I know. I can put out fact. I can put out, did you think about it this way? Did you think about it that way? What about this? I can put all that out there. It's up to the person to take that and do something with it. It's up to me to keep the door open for communication if that person wants it. But I can't keep owning all that stress that comes with that, because what's it do to me? It affects my mental health. And that is something that a lot of times, if we're doing everything we can, right, and we continue to carry that with us, we're just having more stress on ourselves in a world full of stress as it is, right? So do some discernment in that stance. Do what you got to do to bring conversation to the table. Open the doors for communication, one-on-one communication, maybe it's group communication, but just don't be that keyboard commando if you want change, and if you want to get a point across to somebody. So develop relationships, people. Relationships are the key to life. And remember, mental health matters.